Hey guys, Paul here. As always, a very humble thanks for tuning in to RDTV today, where we're doing something a bit different than usual. We're taking out four new pieces of content that have recently released for iRacing out for a test drive. We're going in the Renault 3.5 open wheel car, the Formula 3 Dallara, the twin ring Motegi Grand Prix circuit, and the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval configuration course, and having a look how they drive and how they feel in the recent December 4th update for iRacing.com. Been a long time since I've been in iRacing, so I'm really looking forward to getting behind the wheel, trying out these four new pieces of content and seeing how the sim has moved on somewhat since I last drove iRacing 2 years ago now. There have been a monumental number of changes since then, not least of which, of course, is the new content, but also in the December 4th update, we've got a new beta UI in selected places. We've got, at last, dynamic time of day transition, so you can start in the daylight, end in the night, something that's a big move for iRacing that's been requested for a long time from the community, who have tired somewhat of racing in static time of day conditions. So in a later video I'll give those transitions a test as well and see how they fare against the competition, but today we're particularly focusing on content. First off, I'm going to take the 3.5 Renault out for a drive round Motegi, and then after we've done that, we'll try the Formula 3 Dallara round the Charlotte Roval configuration, and we'll give our thoughts on what the new cars are like compared to the rest of the content in iRacing, and also what they're like in general terms and how the simulation has moved on over the last few years. So, again, massively appreciate you taking some time out of your day to watch this little video. Hope you enjoy, and let's go talking driving in new iRacing content as of December the 4th, 2018. Thanks very much. Okay, let's hit the track and see what we think. So, now we are driving the Formula Renault 3.5 open wheel car that's come to the title, and we're driving it on the Grand Prix variant of the twin ring Motegi circuit, which is also new as part of this December 4th release update for iRacing.com. Now, cool thing about the track, Motegi is free. Yes, doesn't cost a penny to existing iRacing members, which is pretty cool. And the car, the 3.5 Renault Formula car that we've got here, retails at the usual iRacing cost, which off the top of my head, I think that's about $11.95 or something along those lines. So just the usual pricing structure that iRacing employ for new car releases. And both car and track are very, very good. Now, the 3.5 Renault that we're driving at the moment is a series that used to exist as a rival, I suppose, to the, at the time, GP2 or Formula 2 as it's called now, as a support category for the main Formula 1 series. A couple of years ago, that ceased to exist following a period of removal of support from Renault. So sadly, it's a shame that this championship is no longer in existence. Nor did it ever race at Motegi, but hey, that's the beauty of sim racing. We can make any combination we so see fit. And it's a nice addition to the sim. It's been known for a long time that the 3.5 Formula Renault car is coming to iRacing, and it's took a little bit longer, but I'm sure the devs would have liked to have realised this release within the title. But hopefully, for those of you that enjoy high performance open wheel cars, it's been worth the wait. It sounds the bee's knees, it looks really good, it's got the usual iRacing attention to detail applied to it, as one would expect from a premium piece of content that is a car within this sim. And it's really quite user friendly as well. It is, let's not forget, a support category. It's not a main series like a Formula 1 car is. And as such, although it's fast, although it's fidgety underfoot, you would expect this car in real life to be forgiving for the junior drivers, and that's come across quite nicely within the software itself. So before I go on to any more detail about the Renault 3.5 Formula car, let's be quiet for a minute and have a listen to that beautiful V8 noise. Sounds good, doesn't it? We miss big loud engines in motor racing, or I do anyway, and it's nice to see something that harks back to motorsport as it always has been, rather than motorsport at it as it is circa 2018. Now, as I mentioned, the real World Championship is no more, which is a real pity. It was a great championship, saw a few races myself back in the day. It started out live, arguably as a marketing tool for Renault. The championship used to travel all around Europe. Tickets were free, so fans could get in, get up close to the racing. There was a lot of Renault branded championships racing, so you had the Renault Clio Cup, the Renault 2 litre Euro Cup and Formula Renault Junior cars, which in effect were sort of on a par to Formula 3 pace. And they also had the a year or two old Formula 1 car driven by whoever was the test driver at the time, putting some laps in around the circuit, doing a few donuts, and just generally wowing the crowd. All things Renault, all things noisy, all things open wheel and motorsport. And it made for a fantastic weekend and a really wonderful introduction to motor racing for people that otherwise may not have gone to see the action track side. So it's a real shame when the championship moved away from that super weekend style formula and branched out onto its own, and it eventually led, I suppose, ultimately to the demise of the category and the retirement of the 3.5 series car that we're driving here. But thank you to iRacing and thank you to Simulation Motorsports, we get to relive some of those glory years again within the sim. Now, as I alluded to earlier, this is a support category car, even, put my teeth in, so as such, it's more forgiving than, let's say, the 2018 Dallara IndyCar or the McLaren Formula 1 car that are in the sim. But it's still thrilling enough to give people who like their action fast and open-wheeled something to get the teeth into and enjoy. Which essentially is what sim racing's all about, is providing you a good driving experience, but also the opportunity to have some good close racing. Now, those of us maybe less familiar with who iRacing are and what the sim's all about, essentially, at this stage anyway, at December 2018, there's no AI, artificial intelligence, offline mode, essentially, within the title. It is entirely geared towards racing, online, against your fellow human being. And as such, they try and offer a wide variety of different kinds of car to suit every taste. Predominantly, iRacing being a US-based firm, they offer a lot of the US racing scene. So you've got a lot of the dirt track racing cars, the NASCAR series as well, a variety of different years. Variety of different years in NASCAR, and the old Dallara and new Dallara Indy cars as well. A whole host of different oval circuits too. So to get a little bit of European content like this, Formula Renault 3.5 is really nice, and a bit of a change of pace from what we've been seeing of late in iRacing, where, as I say, they focus a lot on the US side of things, and also GT endurance racing is a primary mainstay content for the sim. So this is nice to have a single make open wheel category. Oh, bit of a lock tyre there. Michelin screaming enough as I come into the hairpin, but we made it around. and I think the sim have done a really good job. As I mentioned during the introduction to this video, it's been a long time since I've put any laps into iRacing. And just to speak about the sim itself for a moment, it actually feels like it's improved quite a bit since I last got behind the wheel. This is a nice feeling car. It's quite talkative on the force feedback for a high downforce open wheel car at least, and it's giving me a nice feeling that the wheel is quite predictable what it's doing. Gone is the driving on glass snappy rear end that I recall from my first stint within the sim, and I admit I'm only basing that judgment on these few short laps I've done in the former Renault 3.5 litre. So I don't know what it's like across the rest of the content. That were close, weren't it? But it feels to me like things have moved on quite nicely, to the point where I'm really interested in putting some more time in the simulator to get a better and broader feel of what the game is offering. So talking about what the game offers while we're here for a moment, and just moving away slightly from the Formula Renault 3.5 that we've been speaking about and driving at the moment, we'll move on to the track. Motegi, based in Japan. Quite a technical, reasonably slow circuit, built to Formula 1 Grand Prix standards, and probably fairly well known by everybody but me from a variety of different sims that it's appeared in particular the Gran Turismo franchise of games. This was a bit of a mainstay in GT for a number of years now. And it's nice to have something a little bit different to drive in iRacing. It's nice to have a track of this kind that's got a lot of slow corners, a lot of technical sections, especially towards the final sector of the lap. And it should be an interesting addition, and I'm hoping will be quite popular with iRacers. It's been really well done. Of course, as is always the case with iRacing tracks, it's been laser scanned. The attention to detail they appear to have put into landscaping the surroundings and bringing the fine details of the circuit to life are really quite nice. And it's one of the finer quality, in my opinion, circuits that do come with the sim. And what's even cooler than that, for all of you naysayers that have issue with the pricing structure of iRacing, it's free. So if you're a current active member at iRacing.com, this track will be available in your library without any money having to change hands. And that's really cool. And it comes in a number of different configurations. You've got the oval, of course, there has to be an oval in there somewhere, and you've got the Grand Prix course, which we're driving on now, and then a couple of different variants of the shorter layouts for the track, which basically they take in like the first or the third sector with a link road to bring it round to complete the full lap. And that's really nice because iRacing has, we're driving something quite fast, quite high powered, but it has a whole host of different cars. So some of the more popular motors are things like the Mazda MX-5 Cup, which is a low horsepower, or relatively low horsepower, relatively sedate car, but offers some fabulous racing. And maybe going on the full track might be a bit of a stretch for a car like that. But in the shorter versions, absolutely tailor-made for something a little bit more steady away. So it's nice to see that iRacing have thought about that, incorporated more than one variant into the layouts available for the circuit, so you can hopefully cater for a few more different people. That's really cool. The track itself looks really good. It's nice performance, well put together. It's laser scanned, so one would expect it's a very good representation of what the real deal is like to drive. Never been to Japan, never driven twin ring Motegi, so I can't vouch for its accuracy there, but I have trust in iRacing that they very much pride themselves on their laser scanning. Pretty much the first sim racing developer to do that
in any kind of big and meaningful way, and that's been something of a selling point for the sim pretty much since the beginning of time has been laser scanning. Of course, I mean, since iRacing first came out, laser scan technology has become much more popular and it's pretty much developing into the sim racing standard now, I suppose you could say. But it's still a very nice thing, very much like laser scan circuits, to give you that level of accuracy. And that's been adopted, as always, here with Motegi. So you'll hear no complaints from me. It's a track I don't particularly know, can you tell? And it's a nice drive. In a car like this, it's a nice, enjoyable circuit. As I say, it's a bit technical. There's a lot of slow sections. I dare say setup's quite important here to get the compromise between a good launch out of the corners and a decent amount of speed for the two long straights, one of which, the start-finish straight, we're joining it with now. So that really covers all there is to cover about Motegi. And if I go back to the Renault even, Formula 3.5 car, if I may for a moment, this is a spec formula, so there's the single car, the single engine, which iRacing have brought to us. Obviously you can paint the car in your own colour schemes, which is one of the main points of iRacing. You get your own team name, your own team colour design, livery design, your own team identity, and then go race it either in leagues or the selected different organised and regular races that iRacing holds. And it's got very much the hallmarks of making a very popular, I think, piece of content for the sim. I don't know the statistics of how popular European single-seaters like this are compared to the bread and butter NASCAR and IndyCar events, but I dare say if there's any kind of following for this sort of thing within the sim, then this will be a popular edition. It's a nice car, it's enjoyable. I've really enjoyed my time with it. It's the big brother of the very big brother of the Formula Renault 2 litre that's already available in the sim. And as I say, it's definitely a step below Formula 1, and it's kind of comparable to where Formula 2 or GP2, as it was in the days of this series, it's kind of comparable in lap time to where they are. So it's probably, I would suggest, the third fastest series of open wheel cars within the simulation at present. You've got the 2018 IndyCar and the previous generation IndyCar, which more than likely top the lap time ranks, and we've got the McLaren Formula 1 car from, if I remember correctly, 2015, 2014, not quite sure now if I'm honest. And then there's this, the next one down the ladder of the iRacing single-seater career, and it's a good one. It's a bit bizarre that, as I say, this has come out now the real series has become defunct and is no longer, and that's just purely down to the amount of time it's taken to bring the car to the sim. But I'm glad, on a personal note, I'm glad iRacing has stuck with it. For me personally, I'm not one that always wants to drive the latest and most modern. I do like some it's bizarre calling this historic content, but I do like historic content. I like interesting and different content, and to see a Formula Renault 3.5 litre V8 Formula car come to a top level sim is a rarity. We've got one of dubious quality, shall we say, in Project Cars 2. If that game floats your boat, then that's great for you, but it's not my cup of tea, and I've got some serious doubts over the here we go, simulation value of that title and that car. So for me, this is the only real official first party Formula Renault 3.5 of any decent quality that's available in sim racing. and I'm glad for it because it was a great series. It's an enjoyable car to drive, it keeps you on your toes, but allows you to still be able to drive in a sensible way and hopefully have some good racing should you take it online against fellow iRacers. So I think it's a good move by iRacing to bring this car to the sim, and I think it should, one would hope, provide some enjoyable content for people to play. Now, as I said at the beginning, this is available to purchase. It is purchasable content, it's not free content. It's available to purchase from the iRacing store as of December 4th, 2018. It's priced at the normal car price in iRacing, which I think is just a smidge under $12, if memory serves me correct. And I like it. Absolutely, certainly I like it. I think it's a good car. So I'm going to shut up, do a lap, hopefully without going off. Certainly not at racing speed. And then we'll move on to a slightly more sedate, but still nice and nippy, Dallara. Oh look, I've gone off even before I started. We'll go on to the slightly more sedate Dallara Formula 3 car, which is the other new car to come to iRacing on this December 4th update. Right, that'll be me then signing off for a few moments. We'll do the rest of this lap, and we'll move over to the Dallara. That didn't work out well. It's okay. Fight on, Paul. Fight on. I will just caveat this by saying I'm running the stock setup, so made no adjustments. This is what you see is what you get when you load the car up. Right, enough of that good stuff. Let's move over to the Formula 3 Dallara and let's take it round the other new track, the Charlotte Roval configuration. We're back by the power invested in me through software editing. We have seamlessly moved to this, the Dallara Formula 3 car, the other new racing car that's come to iRacing as part of the December 4th build update. As well as a new car, we're also driving this track. I don't recognise it, Paul. Pray tell, where are you today? Well, I'm at one of the newest Monster Energy NASCAR Series circuits, and arguably one of the most peculiar. We're at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval configuration. Yes, Roval, I hear you cry. What is that? It's part oval, the bit we're on now, and part road course, with a little Daytona-esque chicane thrown into the middle of it. This is a brand new circuit on the US racing scene, so this is, as of 2018, part of the NASCAR Monster Energy Series calendar. Much to great confusion it caused the NASCAR drivers and a whole load of pile-ups, especially at this corner that we're going through now. It's an interesting course, and it also, really cool, comes free to owners of the existing Charlotte Motor Speedway Oval, which is pretty cool. So it's a new configuration, but don't be fooled by that. It is an entirely new track, an entirely new way of going racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And as I say, in the real world, it entertains the NASCAR Monster Energy Series and its associated support categories, so the Camping World Trucks and the NASCAR Xfinity category. The other way around though, the Camping World Trucks is the third tier series in that little threesome of NASCAR stock car racing series. Very big in North America, really popular championship NASCAR, and something I've enjoyed greatly over the years. But I dare say this would also be, in the sim, a nice configuration for endurance races as well. And to be honest, it's not too bad in this little Dallara Formula 3 car. I have to admit, I've done 4 or 5 installation laps, and that is all, so I'm very much unfamiliar with the layout, but it's a fairly simple track layout, as you would expect from something they've shoehorned into the infield essentially of an existing facility. But it's not without its own challenges, and it's interesting. As a European, I've always enjoyed Roval configuration tracks, so the short-lived Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit for one, and a number of others that have popped up in sim racing over the years. So it's something a little bit different, something that gives you a little bit of a different challenge. And obviously when you're racing, these big long straights and oval sections cry out wonderfully for slipstreaming opportunities, which make for a really good on-track product. And I dare say this Charlotte road course configuration will be no different. But then you've got high speed and tight sections like the one we've just gone through, which is really going to be a very difficult prospect for iRacers to negotiate their way around when in a competitive race situation. There's not that many overtaking opportunities available at this track that one would consider safe, shall we say. Everything's got an element and a degree of risk attached to it, and you know, that's what we like. We like a bit of risk, we like a little bit of jeopardy in our motor racing, and I reckon, much like the real world NASCAR drivers, this could be a bit of a tasty, but a little bit of an accident-packed venue to go do your online racing on. And I must say, I can instantly admit I like it. It's not a classic, it's not a Spa of this kind. No one's going to revere this circuit in 40 years' time. I'm absolutely certain of that. And somebody like myself who's known of motor racing and followed motor racing for a long time, and who's sim raced also for a very long time, I'm getting to a point in my life where I like things that are a little bit different from the norm, that add a little bit of variety and change into a daily consumption of virtual motor racing. And this one does the job quite nicely. I've instantly taken to this. I've only done, as I say, a handful of laps, and it's really, really good. It's a really nice looking track as well. iRacing have done a really good job of marrying up the virtual experience to what I saw on telly when watching the corresponding NASCAR Monster Energy Series event. Difficult for iRacing because obviously it takes a long time, especially when you're doing laser scanning, to build a whole new circuit for the sim. And this configuration of the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval hasn't been in existence all that long. So it must have been a bit of a rush job from the devs to be able to fit everything into the timing schedules and get it done right and get it done well. And they seem to have done a really, really good job. It looks absolutely lovely. Of course, oh, we've lost it. Of course, the Charlotte Oval already existed within the title, and that's had a bit of a facelift as well. So it's, I say just a case of bringing the infield course section, the roval part of it, to the sim. But it feels like they've done a really smart job, and I think absolutely thumbs up to iRacing and the developers for getting this done so well, so quickly, and bringing what must be a really, especially for the North American audience, a really interesting track that carries a lot of expectation and a lot of excitement to try out. That's, as I say, one of the newest track layouts available on the US racing calendar. So that's a good job. But I will say, from my short time behind the wheel, the performance does struggle FPS wise a little bit compared to some of the other venues, compared to Motegi, for example, which we've just been going round in the Formula Renault 3.5 car. At Motegi, using my single screen in test mode, I've done the same thing. I'm getting about 92 FPS. At this track, I'm hovering around the 90 sort of mark, and then at certain sections, it's dropping down to 88, 89. So the performance is not quite as high as some of the other ones. Now I've changed the weather settings, so I've put it on late afternoon, give us a little bit of variety. That may well have some impact on it as well, but certainly when it gets a little bit feisty out on track, so after we get off the oval section, which we're on at the moment, where the barriers really close in on you, it drops to 88, 89 and gets a little teeny bit juddery. I've got the settings, the graphic settings set quite high, so that again, there is some wiggle room for me to lower those should I wish to get into a racing situation, and that will help things no end. But it's at this point in particular, it seems to get a little teeny bit stuttery, which might, just might, be a tad dicey when racing against a field of other competitive iRacers online. And that's not what you want at a high-speed section with walls immediately next to you, like we see there. Let's see if we don't go off here for a change. Yay! Right, enough of the track. Let's talk about the car, which is another new piece of content that comes to iRacing as part of this December 4th build. And as I said earlier, this is the Dallara Formula 3 car of current FIA European Formula 3 and British Formula 3 specifications. This is slower than the Renault 3.5 in which we've driven, so this is very much an entry level into the world of slicks and wings Formula car. But actually, for me, as you can tell by the couple of offs I've had, it's a lot more flighty than the Formula Renault 3.5 that we drove last time out. It's very, very skittish. It's really sat up on its tiptoes when driving it around the circuit. And it is a very nervous car, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting that from a car of this kind. And I must admit, I don't know whether it's because my force feedback wheel still needs a little bit more dialing in, but it also feels a lot less communicative through the wheel than the 3.5. It feels slightly numb. And as we've seen when we had a little pirouette a couple of laps ago, I'm struggling to find a feeling of when the rear end is breaking traction, which makes for a very nerve-wracking experience, to be perfectly honest, because I don't know when I'm traction limited at the rear, it feels to me, and that's putting me into a spin situation before I've really got any kind of understanding of what's happening and attempt to do anything about it. So this is not a particularly enjoyable, I've got to admit, not a particularly enjoyable driving experience in its current configuration. For me, I had a quick look at the setup options before coming out on track. I've left it. See, there we go, look. I saw that were going, you could see the movement on my screen, but I didn't feel it in the wheel. And as anybody who's done any kind of real world or sim racing to any sort of reasonable level will know, in a slide situation, especially in a Formula car, a slicks and wings car, you need to be correcting the issue before it becomes an issue. And that can only be told to you a few split seconds before you visually see what's happening through your force feedback. You need to feel the traction braking and the car sliding away from you minutely just before it turns into a big slide, so you can counteract it, because when you see the slide visually happening, it's too late. It's already too late. You're not going to be able to recover from it because of the nature of the kind of cars. I can't, with my setup, so there we go, this is getting pointless now, so I'm going to stop. I can't, with my setup, feel it in this Formula 3 car, and I don't like it at all, to be perfectly honest. It's nervous, it feels a little bit numb. It's not allowing me any ability to control any kind of issues that I'm having. I mean, that one, to be fair, that particular crash, it was because I caught the curb, it was always going to happen. But in the other slides that I had, and the other spins that I had during this video, it came about as a complete shock. It's the iRacing of old that I remember from back in the day, the glass surface and having instant loss of traction and pirouetting, that I definitely do not feel in the Renault 3.5, which for my money at least, with the current setup that I'm running, the current force feedback settings I've got on my wheel, 3.5 is night and day better than the Renault, than the Formula 3 Dallara that I've just driven. But again, I can certainly do with more fine-tuning on my setup on my wheel, and that might bring some more feeling back into the car. But as it comes bone stock and the setups I've got, I don't like the Dallara Formula 3 at all. I think it's very numb. It looks nice, it sounds nice, the theory behind the categories are excellent. Low power Formula cars are always good fun, always good racing. But for me, it's a bit of a fail really from iRacing on that one. Something I don't enjoy at all. But yeah, there you go. That's just my subjective personal opinion. You're welcome to test it yourself and make your own decisions and argue the toss with me in the comment section of this video if you so wish. So there we go. That's been a very brief look at the new Motegi and Charlotte Roval circuits for iRacing, both free additions to the sim, and the Renault Formula 3.5 open wheel race car and Dallara Formula 3 open wheel race car new paid content for iRacing. All 4 pieces of content came out on December 4th, 2018, so if you're an iRacing member or if you're on the fence and curious, go have a look, form your own impressions. I hope you've enjoyed our talk and drive video today. I've tried my best and failed on more than one occasion, but I hope it's been entertaining. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sincere and huge thank you for taking time out of your day to sit down and watch me ramble on while doing an inadequate job behind the wheel, testing these cars to the limit. I've been Paul, as always. This has been RDTV. We've been doing another talk and drive video. If you're watching us on Twitch, thank you very much. Give us a subscribe and a follow, please, if you could. And if you're watching a little bit later on YouTube, again, please give us a like and a sub. That would be wicked, and that would show that I'm actually contributing something to race department rather than just taking up screen time. And yeah, until next time, I've been Paul. This has been RDTV. We've been driving iRacing and the new December build. Hope you've enjoyed. Till next time.